I just wanted to welcome everybody here this morning. We greatly appreciate you all being here and making this event possible. And we are excited about this morning filled with updates and information about all the things that are happening around Sherman and some of the fun and exciting projects that we have to talk about today. If you weren't able to attend the Coffee with the Mayor just before this, we had a great discussion about some retailers who are in some stage of development here in our community and in our downtown. So this event would not be possible without our sponsors. And so we've got some incredible sponsors. I'm going to list those out for you. Covenant Development, First State Bank, First United, Hewlett Zollers, Munson Realty, Pape Dawson Engineers, Plyler Builds, Rayburn Energy Station, Rex Real Estate, Simmons Bank, and Utter, Pike, and Dobbs Private Wealth Management Group of Wells Fargo. So if you don't mind, join me in a round of applause for our sponsors. This is our fourth annual Mayor's Roundtable event. This is my first annual Mayor's Roundtable event. And we are blessed with a previous mayor who started this event along with the SEDCO team. And I think it's just a fantastic opportunity for us to come together as a city and community to hear about all the many updates and the state of the city, and also, of course, some of our recently announced exciting projects and incredible speakers like our hometown speaker right here in the front row, Will Kane. So whenever I asked Will to come speak, I called the SEDCO team and I said, hey, what I'd like to do is get Will's football jersey from when he played football in high school. And they said, well, we think he was a swimmer. And I said, can we get his Speedo? You know? I would also like to recognize our elected officials that we have here in the audience this morning. So if you are an elected official, if you would please rise for me. So a special thank you to our city council, the city council that I get to work with. They make the job of mayor very easy, and we've got a great group. I'd also like to recognize that the Denison mayor and several Denison city council members are here this morning. And, a rising tide raises all ships. And we are so excited to be able to work collectively with Denison to help really build out this region and make it a special place for us all. So thank you, Denison, for being here with us this morning. And I'm not going to point out every single elected official in the room this morning because this is like an elected official medley here. We've got everybody. But I would like to say I see County Judge Bruce Dalsey on the front row, District Attorney Kermit Hill, and of course, Assistant District Attorney Britton Brooks. So thank you all for being here with us this morning. Okay, so our first speaker this morning will be Dr. Zachary Flores, who is currently our city manager, and he's going to talk to us about where the city has been, where we are currently, and where we are going. And so he needs no introduction, but I will read the bio that they prepared for me to read. I could tell a lot of stories about Dr. Flores that would probably entertain this audience much more than this bio, but I'll stick to the script. If not, Ashton is going to come up here and tug on my ear. So last introduction, I apologize. If I missed this one, I'm going to be in the doghouse. My wife and my mother-in-law, Randy Tiemann and Michelle Castle. If you guys don't mind, please stand if you don't mind. There we go. All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. ICE is back with the brand new invention. Okay. All right, so without further ado, Zach began serving as city manager in 2025, but his story with Sherman goes back nearly 2 decades. He first joined the city in 2007 as a police officer working patrol with the Sherman Police Department. He rose through the ranks of the city to become chief of police in 2016, and later served as our executive director of public safety and assistant city manager. Over the years, he's earned degrees from Grayson College, Texas A&M Commerce, UT Rio Grande Valley, and even a doctorate in business administration from Capella University. A native of Trenton, Texas, Zach has devoted his career to this community, not just through city service, but also by serving on the boards of organizations like Grayson County Child and Family Guidance Center, the Crisis Center, and Grayson College Foundation. And on top of all of that, he's a proud husband and father of 3. So please join me in welcoming to the stage our city manager, Dr. Zach Flores.
Thank you so much. I am going to, those of you that know me know that I sure don't like the attention. But I'm going to try to help out a little bit, and I'm going to run through these slides and tell you quickly about what Sherman is doing. And I know most of you are here to see me. I ask that you politely stay and see the other guests as well. So I'm going to run through this pretty quickly. I'd hate for there to be a mass exodus when I'm done. If you'll just give the courtesy of staying for everyone else, I'd appreciate that. So let's see if we can get started here and get this going. Here we go. Okay, so where we've been. Historically, Sherman has been very industrial based, and so over the last few years, we've been focusing on that, on getting these industries. We've worked to have industries here and diversify our base there in our industrial parks, and that's a good thing, right? So we've got TI here, and that's been a big story, right? So where are they at? What are they doing? Well, they're qualifying their products, getting those out to their vendors, making sure that they're working like they should, and still in the process of hiring. Global Wafers is in the same step. And we've also got other food-based industries like Lawrence Equipment and Easy Foods that we look to welcome to our town. So we've really got a lot of publicity about the technology sector, which is great, and we enjoy that. But having the diversification is something that we look forward to as well. So what does that mean? That didn't come without a cost. And so we spent over $500 million in capital projects over the last few years to make sure that we had the infrastructure that could support that. And so I'm going to take this off here real quick. So some of that it really is getting to the point of being completed. And that's not just a benefit to those industries, that's a benefit to the community as a whole. So our water treatment plant is about 80% complete in getting, we're so fortunate to be able to pull this water from Lake Texoma and be able to treat that ourselves. And so we've got some renovations and updates there. 36-inch water line is complete. The wastewater treatment plant is coming along 90% complete, and we're fixing to start work on an elevated storage tank. Now let me pause right here. I was used to chasing bad guys for a long time, and this was like boring. Not now. It is not now. Clay, not boring. Love it. For the engineers, this is great. For those of you that are in the development field, you're like, yeah, okay, elevated storage tank, that sounds good. I see several of my counterparts standing around with guns, and they're like, I don't know what that is. So I've been there. It does mean a lot, and it is a lot of infrastructure. It doesn't come free. It's a big expense. It's a big undertaking that cities like Sherman usually aren't able to tackle, but grateful that we've been able to. Highway 75. I'm going to kind of speed this up a little bit so we can get to the main part of this, but basically, been under construction, still under construction, will be under construction. There's that. All right. Also, where we've been. Focusing on our city efficiencies. We built a new police station. If you've gone downtown, our central fire station's immaculate. It's great. We've renovated City Hall, so we're doing the most we can with what we've got. Out of those three facilities, only one of them is actually new. We've renovated 2 others. We're also focusing on that quality of life. For the first time in 7 years, I say this, Justin Eastwood is our Parks and Recreation Director, and I think in the last decade, the best of Texoma Park has just been wherever he's at. And so he's here in Sherman now, and our Fairview Park is best of Texoma, so we appreciate that. It's an inclusive park. We're taking care of the community as a whole, and that means a lot. If you're a child, you should be able to go play, and we want to be able to provide that. Let's see, we might move to the next slide, I'm not sure. Here we go. Okay, so where are we now? What are we doing? Well, unemployment's gone down since last year. went from 4.2 to 3.6. Housing permits in just the last 4 years is up 117%. That's a growing pain that is felt, right? If you try to get a permit, you're like, oh man, this is taking too long. Okay, well, maybe it did. So we implemented some new software to be able to help with that and make it a little bit more user-friendly. We've been able to keep our same tax rate over the last 3 years, and that does not come without work, because keeping the same tax rate doesn't mean that everything else doesn't get more expensive. And so that's a big shout out to our city council there. Our infrastructure, again, resilient and redundant. And if you're part of an industry, you know that's the name of the game. You've got to keep working so you can keep producing. Public safety communications, let's say it was behind the times, and it's not now. We have got the latest and greatest technology as far as that's concerned. And we are continuously working to secure water rights, because it's a long story, but we're extremely unique in the way that we have access to water here in Sherman. And water is pretty much gold in Texas, right? If you have water, you can develop. And if you don't, good luck. And so there's a lot of cities around here that wish they had the resources that we had. Where are we going? We're going to be focusing on streets. We're taking a strategic approach to streets. I know that the worst street in Sherman is the street in front of your house. That's a fact. And so, but we're working on them, and we're using improved materials. We're trying to be very thoughtful in how we go about that so that we can get the most out of our investment. Visible change downtown. This is a council initiative. The council wants to invest in downtown, and we are. The Texas sign that has been in Austin Museum, it's coming back. We're getting lighting around the courthouse that will have speakers and Wi-Fi, and that'll be up in the spring. There's a master plan to help guide us through that. We've got an expanding grant program too that we are meeting people where they're at to help overcome some obstacles. So the visible change downtown, there's X amount that we can do, and real quick. We're also trying to get a developer-friendly process and make sure that it's easy enough for you to come through Sherman and provide your investments, and sustainable sidewalk and trails program. So those are the things that we're focusing on. Those are the things that we're wanting to do. That's a real high level. I'm being told that the state of Sherman is up. You're done. That's what they said. They said, you're done. Again, I could dive quickly and have an hour conversation on all of these things. It's important for you to understand that we're focusing on some very, very particular pieces of how you run a community. We're paying attention to those things. We're trying to be fiscally responsible to make the monies go as far as they can. And we want to do that not only for the resident of Sherman, but also those coming to do business in Sherman. So, as I said, please don't leave now. Many of you are sitting there thinking, that was great. I can go. No, please stay. So now I'm going to introduce Juan Carlos Ruck. He is the Executive Vice President for Northwest Food and Drug and HEB Real Estate. So as many of you know, HEB has purchased land in Sherman this year, and we're excited to have them even interested in what Sherman has to offer. And so we're very grateful for Juan Carlos to come to Sherman today to speak to us and be here at the Mayor's Roundtable. Juan Carlos is the Executive Vice President of Northwest Food, Drug, and HEB Real Estate. He joined HEB in 2014 as part of the retail leadership team. In 2015, he took the role of Senior Vice President of Supply Chain and Logistics with primary responsibilities for HEB's warehouse and transportation organization. In 2018, he took responsibility for HEB's manufacturing organization as the Senior Vice President of Manufacturing. Now, let me pause real quick. When the mayor was giving my bio, it was like he was a cop for a little while, and now he's the city manager. Mr. Ruck has done much more. And so I'm sitting here reading this, and I'm like, yep, that's not me. He's been very successful. He's been a servant as well. So in 2019, he helped stand up the Northwest Food and Drug Division. as the Senior Vice President of Operations, and during that time, his primary responsibility was lead the expansion of HEB in North Texas, which has been very visible, and I think it's been something that's been very public and everybody's seen. He's currently the Executive Vice President for the Northwest Food and Drug Division, and he is responsible for the 103 HEB stores in Central West and North Texas, as well as their retail team. He's an active board member of Folds of Honor North Texas and is the executive sponsor of HEB's Veterans Partner Resource Group. Prior to HEB, he worked for PepsiCo and was the vice president of Frito-Lay's Texas and Oklahoma business and led businesses for them in Minnesota, Florida, Central America, Puerto Rico, and the Caribbean. He is a graduate of the United States Military Academy at West Point and served in the U.S. Army for 5 years as a combat engineer officer. He received his MBA from Stanford University. He and his wife, Carrie, reside in North Texas with their 3 children. And so with that, if you would join me in welcoming Juan Carlos Ruck and Mayor Sean Tiemann.
We are very excited to have you here this morning, and we just want to welcome you and thank you for being here and sharing the vision of HEB with us. Absolutely. And people in this audience, in our community, when they heard the announcement that the land was purchased, were probably more excited about that than I've seen them excited about any other thing that I've been a part of. So thank you. People are excited right there.
There's one or two.
Yeah, got a handful. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Glad to be here.
So in an essence, to kind of keep up with our schedule here, we're just going to jump right in.
Let's do it.
We're going to get to some very pointed and difficult questions.
Here we go.
For you. Okay. First question. One of the things I found most fascinating about your background was your career in the military. West Point, the U.S. Army, and now HEB. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah. Obviously, one of my greatest honors was serving this country, and I absolutely loved it. One of the most difficult decisions was getting out. But as you make that decision, you got to figure out what you're going to do with your career. I ended up working for a great company in PepsiCo and spent several years there. But at one point was leading our Frito-Lay business here in Texas and Oklahoma, and had a chance to interact with HEB. And the truth is, from a retail perspective, they were both the biggest pain in the butt customer you can imagine, because they were the smartest customer that I had to deal with. But I had the opportunity to go to one of their supplier events and actually met Craig Boyan, who's our current president, who just this week announced his retirement. And I met a couple other executives, and I just remember coming home and telling my wife, these folks have mission and purpose in their work life in a way that I remember having it in the military, and in a way, and this isn't a shot at PepsiCo because it's an incredible company, but in a way that shareholder return as an only mission didn't fulfill. And so called Craig up, begged for a job, spent about 1.5 years getting interviewed. We take our culture very seriously, and now I understand why, and then had a chance to join, and my way too long bio was read, but I actually joined to do what I'm doing today, which is bring HEB to North Texas. And what I didn't realize once I got hired is that we had promised we were going to do that for over 40 years, and I was just another one in the line of people who thought they were coming to do it. So for 5 years, I commuted to San Antonio, and I led our supply chain teams and our manufacturing teams. Not a bad job to make Creamy Creations ice cream and get to taste that every morning at 9. But then finally got the permission from the family to start our North Texas move. So right during COVID, we opened our first store in Lubbock as a test run. They don't like to hear that, and don't tell them, but that was our test run for doing a new market, because we hadn't done one in a long time. And then in 2022, when we opened Plano and Frisco, that was the start. And so that's been the journey so far.
Well, that's excellent. And the thing about HEB that we all know is that, in any company really, the vision and the mission of the company is really what creates a team that will follow and deliver exceptional customer service. And I think that's something that HEB has done really well in South Texas, and we are all very excited to see them do that really well here in Sherman or North Texas. Okay. HEB is more than just a grocery store for many of us. Texans really seem to have a deep connection with you guys. Why do you think that is?
Sure. Well, first, and this might embarrass me, show of hands, has anybody ever been to an HEB in the room? Okay, good. Keep going. We track all your cell phones. We know where you're traveling to. And so that's helpful. You know, I tell a lot of folks, grocery retail, super competitive. I was actually surprised leaving the military that I joined another very, very competitive industry. And you have these table stakes. And so price, quality, assortment, freshness, and I make them sound easy. Those are very hard things to do very well, especially when you're a tiny little humble South Texas grocery company competing against Walmart and Amazon and Costco and all these others. But it really does start with that. But the reality is, what then needs to happen is that we bring you into our community, into our family. And so this is going to sound hokey, but on our name tags it says your name and it says because people matter. And we're thankful that we're still owned by a Texas family who 120 years ago was started by Florence Butt to take care of her family. She started selling groceries with $60 out of her house because her husband had tuberculosis. And she just started this grocery company, and her spirit of giving, most folks don't know that in the evenings she would go to the banks of the Guadalupe River and give away food to folks that didn't have it. So that kind of started this spirit of giving that HEB has. And honestly, the mission is taking care of Texans. And our favorite Texans are our partners. We're not shy about saying that. We have 160,000 partners that work for us, that partner with us. But then obviously they take care of our customers, which ultimately lets us take care of our communities. So if we do our job right, yes, I don't want to make it sound like world peace and anything else, but if we do our job right, we integrate ourselves into the community where the time that you spend in our stores, you're seeing friends. It's as joyful as grocery shopping can possibly hopefully get. And I think those are the things that folks take away and that gets the loyalty. The other part of that is we hopefully get you hooked on some really good products that you can only find at HEB, which over the years, I think our teams have done a great job of developing those products. And in North Texas specifically, it's really important because to come to one of our stores, you have to drive past 10 or 12 of our competitors. So if you can only find Creamy Creations in one place, it's a way to get you to come in.
Well, that's great. Well, I know you've mentioned Creamy Creations a few times. Are you an ice cream fan?
I am. So when it comes to our biggest brands, ice cream, tortillas, so those are the big ones. I have lots of different favorite products.
Okay, well, we have a new ice cream shop in downtown Sherman,
Okay.
Cranky's. And so if you'd like, you could stop by
We'll have
and
to
try
check
out
it
some
out.
of their ice cream.
Be glad to.
Tell us how it is. Okay, so beyond groceries, HEB is known for job creation, philanthropy, community partnerships. When the time comes, what kind of impact could Sherman expect from HEB?
Yeah, this is something I think I mentioned to you the first time we spoke. Once we make a commitment, which for us, buying land is a commitment, we essentially become part of the community. And so from a store perspective, without a timeline, what we can expect is that we're going to get to know Sherman and what your preferences are. So part of me being here is starting to get to know what's important. But we'll have a team that'll come in, our consumer research team, that'll spend time understanding focus groups, what the unique parts of what folks in Sherman want, and we'll build a store around that. Now, it's going to look at first glance like a lot of the HEBs that you walk in, and you're going to say, wait, he told me that they tailor these stores. And what I'll tell you is, when I worked for a big multinational company and we talked about strategy, we'd talk about Texas, and it's like we have a Texas strategy. And I thought I'd come in and I'd tell HEB about all the things that they needed to know about their Texas strategy. I realized that at HEB, we talk about corners. Like we understand what's going on in our communities at that level, and then we tailor the store. And it's not the 80% of the store, it's that last 20%. And sometimes you don't even perceive it. It'll be finding out that there's some local brands that are in this area that folks, when they see them, have a certain feeling of their childhood. It might be food preferences, some of the different, our communities are becoming more and more diverse, they're changing quickly. It's finding those kind of foods. So we will do all that work, and what we'll hopefully do is open a store, and I tell our teams, it's a real simple mission. It's so that when you guys shop the store at some point, you're having the following conversation with a friend. Hey, did you go shopping today? I did. Where'd you go? I went to my HEB. Which one's your HEB? Mine's the one in Sherman. Oh, mine's the one in Melissa. And you actually say my HEB, and our customers do say that in most of Texas. No offense to my competition, but I don't see a lot of people saying I'm going to my, I'm not going to say who, retailer. And what I tell folks is our job is for you to take possession of our store, and the way you do that is by feeling incredibly comfortable, by finding the products that you want, by seeing us in your schools, by seeing us in your community. So, hopefully you never have to experience what's one of the most incredible arms of HEB, which is our disaster relief and how we come to the aid of our communities. But that's another way that a lot of people have experienced us, and that's outside of being a grocery company. And all those things together, when the time comes and we join Sherman, I can guarantee you that we'll get to know you at that level so that we can become part of the community for as long as you'll have us.
Well, I pray that our community never has to get to know your disaster relief team.
Me too.
Also.
Me too.
But what I will say, and I shared this story with you on the phone when we were discussing this. So my dad has a home in near Rockport, Texas, and when the hurricane came through, it was devastating for that entire community. And I went down to help, and the one thing that impressed me about HEB at that time was that they moved heavens and earth to open the store there at the coast. They had tarps draped over the back of the store. They were running generators. They put food and stuff that wasn't perishable on the patio so that people could come pick up the food and not even have to purchase it. And, they actually, from my understanding, they actually flew their truck drivers in on helicopters because the paths and the highways between the distribution and the store were flooded. And so that, to me, you bought a loyal customer of HEB indefinitely after that moment. And I know the community down there greatly appreciated it. But, hopefully we'll never need to see that here in Sherman. But it's something very special that you guys do.
No, I was a year into being an HEB partner when Hurricane Harvey happened, and I was in charge of our supply chain at this point. And I had that total experience where our entire focus was taking care of the communities. And I came from, it was very strange for me to not have to ask for permission to do anything that came to my mind. And so we said we need to get people to Houston. We're a grocery company. We don't have helicopters. But I said to our disaster relief director, how can I because we did this in Harvey as well. Next thing you know, we had helicopters waiting for us to take us into Houston because airspace had been closed, and we somehow were able to fly helicopters in, et cetera. And I say it's the family, and Charles said this to me when he hired me. After a year and a half of interviews, they asked all the questions. I asked him a question around decision making and how would he like me to decide, and he said, by now we've gotten to know you for a year and a half. We understand who you are, what your character is, what your values are. Now I just want you to lead using those values. You'll be fine. You'll never make a mistake at this company. And so it's pretty freeing in your work life to know that you can just take care of people. The rest figures itself out.
That's great. Yeah. That's why we all love the HEB stores.
Yeah.
And not only that, but their coffee tortillas and the prepackaged queso.
Yes.
And
don't forget your wine and your cheese.
Yeah, you get wine and cheese. Yep, all incredible. So as someone who's very familiar with the trends in the industry, what's your vision for what grocery shopping will look like 5 years from now? Am I getting HEB delivered by drone?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, the whole e-commerce, now it's AI. I mean, things are changing incredibly fast, and we're having to engage in all of these things because at the end of the day, however it is that you want to interact with your shopping, we have to be there. So whether it's in the store, online, curbside, we're not on drones yet, but it's here. Our focus, though, I'll be honest, is still how do we get you to come to our store? So my hierarchy of choice, if I'm making the choice, is I want to make our stores such a good part of people's day, such a great part of community that you want to come. There's a business reason as well. If you're walking around the store and shopping and picking it, then I don't have to do all that and then pay to deliver it to you. So don't get me wrong, it's not all altruistic, but it is. You have to, in a lot of retail, you're starting to make things less exciting because you're taking it all online. And what we find is that people still want to interact with each other. People still want community. We still need these places. So I hope 5 years from now, for sure, we still have these big, beautiful, thriving stores with 500 to 700 partners in them like we do now, and 12 million visitors a week. I mean, that's how many folks are walking in and out of our stores every week at HEB. I hope that's still the case. Now, do I think that there's also going to be options to have your food delivered to you by drone? Yes. Do I think that there'll be agentic AI doing your shopping lists and your menus and combining all of that and then sending it to us and having it show up in your door delivered? All those things are here. But I do hope that we continue to get kind of that human interaction in folks in our stores.
Well, I can appreciate that, and I can appreciate the profitability that happens when somebody walks in your store, because I know from my household, if my wife orders all the groceries online and then picks them up, which we do at HEB,
no fun in that.
pretty regular, our grocery bill is substantially less than if she walks into your store and smells and sees all of the incredible options.
There might be a logic there as well. It's hard to smell a butter tortilla online.
Oh, man, so good, so good. Okay, so Sherman has seen incredible momentum with new businesses choosing to invest here. From your perspective, what does the growth in North Texas and Sherman specifically mean for the HEB business model?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of joke internally, for 120 years, we only have stores in Texas and in northern Mexico. And for 120 years, we've kind of been growing. And it's almost like we looked up a couple years ago and said, well, there's 9 million Texans waiting for us to come up there, and what a great opportunity for us to grow. The reality is, North Texas, to include Sherman, is probably one of the most exciting places to do retail, to work in the United States. I mean, as a parent of a 20-year-old in college, he was talking about where he wants to go live, and I'm unbiased. I tried to say, like, if I was going to start my life and my career, I'd probably be here in North Texas, one flight away from anywhere in the world, and a growing and thriving communities. And including Sherman, I mean, you just see it. And so whether it's the growth of our population, the spreading out of our industries, and just the amount of consumerism that we have. And so Sherman was a natural choice. I mean, you see us kind of plotting our way. I often get the question, when are we going to this city or to that? And what I can say confidently to folks is, we've been serving Texans for 120 years. We've kind of done a very methodical job. We will one day, hopefully, serve all of Texas. And we just have to figure out how to sequence our way there and make sure that we get there. And what you all have going on here, it didn't take us long to try to figure out how do we get ourselves a piece of real estate, and we will work towards opening a store.
Well, that's excellent. Well, just in case you want to put in a word with your son, we have several multifamily projects open with rooms and houses on the ground, so we gladly accept him here into the Sherman community.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So for those in the audience, we all have our favorite HEB offering. But as someone in the know, what's the one thing HEB offers that most people are missing out on? What is the hidden gem?
Okay. We have a format called Mi Tienda. It's 2 stores in Houston. I was raised in Mexico City as a child, and so we first moved to the U.S. This is the store we wish we'd have found when we first moved here. It's primarily unacculturated Mexican, first generation, but it is every amazing Mexican product that you can imagine. We developed a line around all those learnings, and of course, Mexican food is now like American food in Texas. But we have a line of products in every department called Mi Tienda that is phenomenal. So you go get the Mi Tienda marinated fajitas that are already marinated better than I can do at home myself. On your tortillas, there's then a line of Mi Tienda salsas. And so folks always go to the grocery aisle for salsa. Go to the produce section, and you will find there is 6 SKUs, different greens and different reds, of the absolute freshest and best salsa, Mi Tienda. Put those on here, and here's my last little secret. We have, in the meat department, the best barbecue aisle you've ever seen. And so it's 42 feet of every cut of meat that you ever wanted to barbecue. Go find Wagyu inside skirt for your fajitas. You can't screw these up. And I don't buy Wagyu steak, as my ribeye. I can't get over spending that much money for a ribeye steak. But on skirt steak, it's a more reachable cut. But you take Wagyu skirt and you barely flash grill it, and you will have the absolute best fajitas with all your Mi Tienda salsas, chips, everything else you need. Long answer, but that's one of the inside secrets.
Oh, that's a great answer.
Yeah.
Randy, take some notes on that, if you don't mind. Okay. So, I know our team did a great job putting together questions and making sure that they would be acceptable, and that we could make sure we didn't ask the tricky questions, okay? But I want to give you an opportunity because we may not have touched every single thing that you could speak about here.
Yeah.
So I want to give you an opportunity to cover any topic about HEB or anything that you might think that the audience would like to know, give you an opportunity to just speak freely.
Well done, sir. Well done. What I would say is we were excited to buy the land. I know that in some cases we've bought land and held it for 10 years and 8 years. We don't intend for that to be the case here. We have some work to do on the site. It's going to be ready in a couple years, and hopefully after that we can sequence the store in. So I do hope to be here not too distant of a future. And when we do, my ask is that y'all engage with the team in the store. I mean, honestly, what makes HEB work is when we integrate into the community. And so I think you'll see, even before we have a store, you'll have our teams here asking how they can get involved. And what I love about the way we get involved, there's checkbook philanthropy, which I know everyone likes a check, but we do a lot more sweat equity and partner engagement within our communities than you're probably used to seeing. And so hopefully you'll see us and invite us into your schools and into your police and fire departments. And we tend to want to integrate that way because for us, and again, this isn't just altruism. The way we compete is we know our cities better than anybody else can possibly know our cities and our communities. And so as we integrate with the community, we'll know how to better serve you. If we serve you better, you'll hopefully reward us with your loyalty. So when the time comes, this isn't an ask for you to shop us as much as it asks for you to engage us and let us have a chance at earning your business.
No, that's great. Thank you. Okay, so this is getting really difficult now. This might be one of the most important questions of the meeting. So I don't want to put you in an uncomfortable place, okay, but it has to be asked.
Okay.
Okay. The people need to know what coffee flavor is the best, because for me it's the Houston blend.
Is that the one?
That's the Houston blend.
So Texas pecan, like the light blue.
Okay.
And then we developed a taste of DFW. I admit we should have called it a taste of North Texas. That was my fault when we did. But it's got these notes of chocolate that in a lot of our like Mexican chocolate coffees that we have in Central Market, for example, we modeled it after that. I think the taste of DFW is a pretty good one too.
Okay. Well, I'm telling you, the Houston blend.
It is good.
That got me.
It's got some cinnamon in it.
Hurricane Harvey was my first experience with that.
That's
and
all right.
I've been hooked ever since. We drink it every morning. We ordered it for a long time, and I'm looking forward to, I buy it in Melissa now, and I'm looking forward to buying it in Sherman in the future.
Look forward to that as well.
So, well, we also, for those of you that didn't know, this morning the coffee that was served at Coffee with the Mayor was actually variations and blends of HEB's coffee.
Fantastic.
And so, yeah, it was really good. So
Everyone looks awake, so
yeah.
he's doing his job.
Juan Carlos, we greatly appreciate you taking the time and for focusing here in Sherman. And I look forward to building more of a relationship with you as we see you here more, right?
Looking forward.
And the other folks from HEB. And we are just very excited. So thank you so much for honoring us today and coming and sharing HEB's vision with us. And we just appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Mayor Teeman. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, did y'all get all your questions answered there? That's a sensitive thing. Any type of project, timelines are difficult. So, but the good news is HEB has planted their flag here. The first step in opening a store is purchasing the land. And that step has been completed. And so we are very excited about that prospect of them making HEB a reality here in our community. So next up, I have the honor of introducing our keynote fireside chat speaker, which is Will Kane. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to welcome back to Sherman someone who knows this city better than most. You may know him as the host of The Will Kane Show on Fox News, or from his years as a co-host on Fox and Friends Weekend. But before that, he was a familiar face on ESPN and even made his mark at CNN, The Blaze, and more. But before all of that, he was one of us, a Sherman native, a proud Texan, and someone whose journey from our hometown to the national stage is nothing short of inspiring. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to our keynote, Will Kane. We're just so honored that you chose to spend your morning with us here. And I did not expect you to come to coffee with the mayor, but that was a real blessing for our community. We are very proud of everything you've accomplished. And, it just brings us honor and, pride to see you on the national platform representing Sherman. And I can't wait to get into this because you're normally the question asker. And so now I get to grill you.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me here, Mayor. However proud you might feel of me, I can promise you that it pales in comparison to how honored and proud I am to be from Sherman. So I would make time in my schedule to come back here any morning that you ask. I love seeing everyone and being back here in Sherman. And I'm more nervous to appear in Sherman than to appear in front of millions every day on Fox News. This is higher pressure, more important than anything I've ever said on a national platform. Yeah. So I hope you'll extend me a little bit of grace.
Well, the questions this morning are going to be very challenging, and we're going to get into it. So
let's do it.
I was watching your show yesterday, and there was some questions about hair products or so what do you use on your hair? I got to ask it again.
Less than you.
Okay. Yeah.
I get a lot of questions about my hair, which really makes me wonder what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong, Mayor. There's a lot of accusations of hair dye. I have several members of my family out here in the audience, and I hope they will stand by my side as witness that I do not dye my hair. But there's a little bit of product, and television lighting makes everything a little darker. That's a little secret. Lighting makes everything a little darker.
Well, I think everyone can see all my gray hair from out there. So. Well, thank you for joining us again. I know we are on a tight timeline, but I want to give you enough time to be able to answer how you want to answer. So we're going to jump right in, okay? You're a storyteller. How has being a Sherman native shaped the way that you see and tell stories?
In every possible way. People ask me, where are you from? And I think by that they mean, where do I live? And the answer, even for some this morning who I talked to, assumed that I live in New York City, which I did for far too long. But I live in Dallas, and I have been living in Dallas for the past 5 years. It's an absolute dream come true that I was afforded the opportunity to do this career from Texas. But that's not where I'm from. I'm not from Dallas. I am from Sherman.
And that wasn't for you. That was for Juan Carlos. Sorry.
Sherman has influenced me in every way of who I am, from my sense of community, from my values, to all the people, many of whom are in this audience, who shaped who I am. And this city, which is rapidly changing and on the verge of rapid change, has been my definition. I gave an interview earlier this week, Mayor, where someone asked me about my vision of America. They were asking me to paint my picture of America. And I realized about a third into the interview that what I was describing was Sherman, Texas. That my vision of America is entirely too focused simply on being from Texas and then more narrowly from Sherman, Texas. But that's okay, because that's what everyone's vision of America should be, their community, their home. And this just happens to be my home.
I agree with you. If we had a little more Sherman, Texas in America, we'd be doing
I agree.
good. Yeah.
I agree. We'd be on a good footing in America.
That's right. So I do notice when I watch your podcast, you have a Sherman Bearcat helmet.
Thank you for noticing.
Yes.
Yes. I stole that from my brother. I didn't play football, you're right. And a Speedo would have been embarrassing for you to hold up. But I did steal that football helmet from my brother's childhood bedroom.
Yeah, well, that's great. I love having that always as a staple there in the background on that platform to the national audience. It just means a lot to us here. So as someone who tells stories every day, what do you think what story should Sherman be telling about itself?
I think, and you and I've had a few conversations, and I think that is the core question for Sherman. When I'm in Dallas, I can't tell you how many people bring up Sherman to me now. You are the freshman in college, prettiest girl on campus, and everybody wants to get to know you. Everybody wants to do business in Sherman. And with that, everyone will be looking to put their stamp on Sherman, to define Sherman. And when you have rapid growth, that growth can grow out of control, and it can be the thing that gets to define what this town is, what this community is. And I think the biggest challenge for Sherman is answering that question. Who are we? What is our identity? Who have we been for the past century and a half? And what in those values and in that identity carries us forward? My vision of Sherman, and it's my vision of Sherman, and I think this should be an open debate and an open question going forward, is that Sherman has literally, I believe, on the frontier, on the cross timbers, on the edge, from East Texas to West Texas, from urban to rural. We're never fully either. We're always right there on the edge. I love the frontier. I think it's a great place to be. I think people that live and work on the frontier are the ones that look out over a land of possibility. You know, that's often identified by looking out at the ocean. Maybe how you feel when you sit on the beach and you look out over the ocean. What you see in all that blue is possibility. What you see is endlessness. I think it's the same way that our forefathers felt when they got to the end of the woods in Texas and they looked out over that Great Plains, that sea of grass. There was a lot of things out there, most notably hostile Indians, but what it also represented was possibility. And from places like Sherman and all along that frontier edge, they launched their own personal quest. They also launched Western civilization. And I think as we answer who Sherman is, I think it's rooted in living on that edge, living in that frontier. That frontier spirit propels us forward. The modern day version of it is it creates entrepreneurs. It creates people that are willing to risk it all, put it on the line, and make something better and bigger, but always remembering who they are. And I hope that is what Sherman is trying to figure out. Who we are, who we have been, and how we retain exactly who we've always been in Sherman.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You and I had that discussion, and I've had that question asked to me several times. And my perspective is always, in order to figure out where you're going, you got to look at where you've came from. And so, in Sherman, we value over anything else family, people, and relationships. And that's why some of our most historic restaurants in town, some of which I'm sure that you have frequented, that is their motto. And they may serve food on paper plates, but it's the people that we care about, right? And so as we look into the future, what we have to be very mindful of as a city is that we don't lose that identity. We still have that Sherman culture, that what makes us so special, that you can go out to a restaurant and see 5 of your friends, and that if you don't know somebody, that you're one phone call away from getting that person's contact information, much like I did to you, to get you here today, right? And so that is what makes it special.
Yes.
And even when you're not in Sherman, you may be halfway across the world and you see somebody from Sherman, even if you don't know them, you go, hey, you're from Sherman. And that is part of who we are. It's what makes us great, and it's really the people of this community. And so as we continue to grow and it becomes more rapid fire, what we have to remember is that these people are going to infiltrate into the Sherman community. The Sherman community isn't changing into the outside communities.
And I really appreciate and love hearing that from you. And I think we've seen examples of that play out on both the macro scale in America and the micro scale in America. We have been learning the hard way of the necessity and the value of assimilation in America. And it will be an ongoing debate, and one that I'm very focused on for our nation as a whole. Because everything we're saying about Sherman also applies to this great country, the United States of America, which has a defined set of ideals, a defined set of values, and a clear history. And anybody that comes that we welcome, and I encourage that word, welcome in, assimilates into those values, becomes a part of that community. And then on the thank you. And then on the micro scale, you have experiments. You have experiments in communities who have been granted everything. There is probably no place prettier, although I am biased and I would not vote this way, but there is no place prettier than the state of California. They've got everything in the world going for them, and it's circling the drain. You know this because they're moving to your community. And the reason for that is a failed leadership and an ability to guide this from the top down, to recognize its people. You have dozens of experiments between here and Dallas of cities who've been through this same exercise. So the difference in all of these, from the United States of America to the governor of California to the cities between here and Dallas, is a leadership that understands that vision.
Well, thank you. I'll take that. So, having witnessed Sherman grow firsthand from a sleepy town to a hub of the Silicon Prairie, what makes you excited the most for the future of this city?
What makes me excited the most? I'm going to tell you a little secret. So, he hinted at it when he was talking to Juan Carlos. I did see the questions before I got here. He gave me some insight into what he might ask me, but it didn't help. I didn't know what I would say. And I thought about this question. I actually thought about it sitting right over there. And I think it can maybe sound like I'm too focused on the past and not the future, but I'm just very, very, very focused on this retention of identity and who you are in Sherman. And so I'm going to tell you what makes me the most proud. What makes me the most proud is to look out here and see people that I've known my entire life invested in Sherman, invested in the future. I'll give you specifics. It's to know that a man that I've known for 30 years, and Justin Dobbs, has been invested in this community and will remain invested in this community. It's to see my high school long life friend, Alan McDougall, over there with a Bearcats shirt on. And to see the people that I grew up with doing something that quite honestly will be a source of guilt for me in my life, that I don't live here. And this isn't the place that I'm investing my professional energy in building, but to see that they are, that is what makes me most proud.
Well, I appreciate that, and you're exactly right. But I will say that we are honored to have your time today, and you are making an impact here, but you're making it at a large scale level.
Well, I'll make this promise to you. I will do whatever you ask, whenever you need it, to ensure that this city is a success in the future. I will invest in every way possible to being here as an evangelist and an investor in Sherman.
Well, yeah. I think we're recording this, so keep that recording. Okay, so from your perspective on the national stage, what path should we as a city be charting in order to best maintain our small town community as we grow? We've talked a little bit about this, but from the national lens, what does that look like? How do we continue to maintain that?
Well, I think it's just, that's what we've already talked about. Yeah. From the national lens, you're going to be more and more in the spotlight. You already are. The chip manufacturing headed to this town is going to, I guess we're going to be called the Silicon Prairie. It's going to be something that defines the future of this town, both from investment perspective, population perspective, and attention. And you might get a lot more attention from the national perspective as that grows. And I just encourage you to continue to think about who you are through that entire process. Listen, you know, you're going to ask me, and there are phases in my career. So, and I'm going to jump some of your questions because we're just going to make this a conversation. Yeah. You want to do this? All right. I know on that sheet it says what's some of the best advice that you've ever gotten. And that's another one I didn't know about. But I'm going to tell you, I didn't know about when I was sitting there. Okay, so here's a man sitting right here in front of us, about the third row in. His name is Tom Johnson. And Tom has been more than a friend. He's been a mentor to me throughout my life. And I remember when I went into entrepreneurship and started to think about building businesses, Tom said to me, and I've received a lot of great advice. So he said to me, starting a business and running a business is like flying an airplane. You don't know sometimes exactly, you can't see out the windshield, you don't know where you're headed, but it's like flying by instruments. You've got to constantly have your eyes on every single thing in that control panel. Is this right? Is elevation right? Is pitch right? You've got to watch your instruments through the entire flight. That's a little bit my career. I did not know that I would be able to host a show from Dallas, Texas. I didn't know at one point that I would be back in news and politics. Before that, I didn't know I'd be debating Stephen A. Smith on First Take. There was no point in my career when I sat down and said, this is the roadmap. But I did have a vision. I did have a goal. You do have the ability to point the nose of the airplane in the right direction, and then you monitor the instruments. And whether or not that's me in my career, or you and what you build here individually, or we as a city, you just have to have that vision. I encourage you, continue to have the vision so that the nose of your airplane is pointed in the right direction. The instruments will lead you perhaps at different points in your flight to higher or lower elevations, to a little turn left or right. But if you keep that nose pointing in the right direction, you will be who you need to be. You will head where you need to head in Sherman.
I love that because, you know, I'm not a pilot, but I know many people who have gone through pilot training. Obviously, Tom, one of those people. And the thing that they teach them when they're going through that training is what to do in a stall, because it's not if your instruments are going to fail or if there's going to be a problem. It's how do you react to that problem.
Absolutely.
And having your nose pointed in the right direction, understanding where you want to go, but also preparing for the stalls, I think is a great message for life in general, but certainly for the community. So that's a great point. Thank you for that. Now, you touched on your career, and if we're going off script.
Yeah, let's do that.
We're going off script, okay. So, you know, we know you went to Sherman High, right?
Yep.
You graduated here. Pepperdine,
yep.
UT.
Law school.
Law school. did water polo, is that right?
Yeah, you're doing a good job. Keep going.
All right, I'm working through this. But after that, right, you graduate, you got your law degree.
Yes.
Okay, and then here you go. What happens between now and then? Where did you go? I know some of the answers, but where did you go from when you left until you landed on the national platform?
When I left law school?
Yeah.
I'll try to tell that story because that airplane has a lot of twists and turns, a lot of ups and downs, and I'll try to tell that in an abbreviated version. Okay, after law school, I thought I might want to write the great American novel. So I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I want to live somewhere that I've always wanted to live. Although I'm very proud to be from Sherman and love Sherman, I've also had a wanderlust. That's pretty obvious from my resume. I read Travels with Charlie by John Steinbeck. And like every young guy, we're not young anymore. Every guy my age, I loved Lonesome Dove. And in Lonesome Dove, Gus and Call drive their cattle herd to Montana. And in Travels with Charlie, which is John Steinbeck drove across the country in his RV with his dog Charlie, he gets to Montana and he says, if you took a boy from Washington, D.C. who had never been to Texas to describe for you Texas, what he would in actuality describe would be Montana. So I thought, wow, I've got to see Montana. So after law school, I moved to Montana. I worked on a ranch. I wrote the great American novel that went absolutely nowhere. And as many of you know, at that time in my life, at the end of that year, my father died. I moved back to Sherman, and I had a younger brother. I have 2 younger brothers and a younger sister. And my youngest brother was 10 years younger than me. He still is 10 years younger than me. He looks older, I think. I tell him that. And I wanted to be around while he was in high school, so I came back. I worked in Sherman for a year, and then I decided I was going to launch my media career. And that was going to be in newspapers. So I moved to the Hill Country. I lived in Llano, Johnson City, Mason, worked small town newspapers to learn the industry. I made $19,000 a year with a law degree. Most of my friends were doing much better. But my intent was to learn the business, to learn media. And I came back and I bought the newspapers in Van Alstyne, Anna, Melissa, started the Lake Texoma newspaper, started a newspaper in Prosper, lived in Sherman, sold those, and then I wanted to start another media business. So, you know, when I was growing up in Sherman, Mayor, we didn't have a large Latino population then. You do now. My wife's from West Texas, and I knew the booming growth in the Latino population, so I thought, I want to have a media property that speaks to this growing population. And the one thing I came to learn about is the term Hispanic doesn't mean anything. It is a government census-created term. It presumes that someone from El Salvador or Mexico, somebody who is first generation to third generation, are all the same. And they're not. You know, they have different interests, they enjoy different sports, they have different aspects to their culture. But the one thing that survives acculturation and is practiced by every Latino demographic is the quinceañera. So I was getting married at the time. My wife would bring home a newspaper, these magazines that were this thick, just full of advertisements. And I thought, these guys are printing money. Like, this is an incredible business. I thought, you know what? That looks just like a quinceañera. So I created an event, magazine, and website company to help young women plan their quinceañeras. At that time, I'll get the story where you want it to go to TV. But at the time, we always wanted to live in New York. And so we moved to New York on a 6-month lease. The quinceañera business failed through a lot of entrepreneurial mistakes that I made on my own. But at the end of that, I had had a success and a failure, and I thought, whatever I do next, I'll figure out how to make money. I know, I trust myself, but I want to be passionate every day when I wake up about what I do. And I'm passionate about ideas, this country, the issues that face us as a people, and the debate. And I'd never asked for a job in my life, so I've only ever started companies, so I produced a TV show. And in New York, I paid for it, and I created a television show that actually featured several guests, some of whom now have primetime shows on MSNBC, and it didn't lead anywhere because they don't buy pilots in news. But it did lead me to a relationship with National Review, which is a conservative magazine. I started doing stuff for them for free. What I told them is, I'll do this for you, is if you introduce me to everyone you know in television. And they introduced me to Bill Shine, who was the #2 at Fox. My very first television appearance was on Fox and Friends Weekend, a show that 10 years later I would host. And I started appearing with Fox for free. And then one night, I decided I'd done this for free long enough. I guessed at the email address at the president of CNN. I could figure out the format. It was first name dot last name at Turner. And I sent him a note, and I just said, you need someone like me. And I gave him a clip. And he responded within 15 minutes and said, you're right, come see me. And I went in to see him. I got an opportunity to sit on a pilot. The former governor of New York, Eliot Spitzer, was getting a new show. This was my chance at the plate. I hit a home run. I knew I crushed the pilot. They hired me for 5 years. I was at CNN for 5 years, and then after that, it's off and running. Then I spent time at ESPN for 5 years, and then during COVID, I got a call that Fox News was interested in bringing me back over to news and politics, and I was hired to be the host along with Rachel Campos-Duffy and the now Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, to host Fox and Friends Weekend.
Great story. Incredible story. Yeah.
And then, last December, I got the best call of my career. We want to give you the 4 o'clock hour Eastern time on Fox News, and we want you to do it from Dallas. It was the best call of my career.
That's great. So it was intriguing to me to see your background in the Latina media space.
Yeah.
So, ¿tú hablas español?
Solamente un poco.
Oh, excelente, excelente. That's great, man. Well, I didn't think that was going to go that way. Okay. So there's a lot of fun questions on here. Before we get to those, because everyone here wants to know what your favorite restaurant is, but we'll get to that in a moment, okay?
In Sherman?
In Sherman.
I can't do that.
Yeah, okay. But, one of the things that I believe, government's responsibility, local government is, we provide basic services. We provide public safety, water, these things that are necessities of life to where you can be comfortable in your own home, okay? Sometimes local governments get the reputation of putting up too much red tape, okay? So government overreach or restrictions. So how would a local government, do you think, seeing this from a national level and understanding, some of that stuff that happens at that national level, how would you keep a local government, if you were the mayor of Sherman, which don't come back and run for mayor, please. If you were the mayor of Sherman, how would you keep your local government centered on providing the basic needs, but also not overstepping those reaches?
Well, I don't know how many people are in this audience. Let's say it's 100, 200. You've got 200 different opinions here, and I will assume mine's just going to be 201. So this is my theory of governance, okay? My theory of governance that is best done at the smallest level possible. The reason for that is your influence, your opinion matters most when the pool of people you're competing against with your ideas is the smallest. You have the greatest influence with him than you do with a man in Washington, D.C. And that's not to say that the man in Washington, D.C. isn't important. The current man in Washington, D.C. is very important. But I believe in local governance. And at each level, it changes your theory. So I want as little oversight and as little restrictions and regulation at the top level as possible. I want that diversified down as much as possible at each level, more for the state then, and then even more for the local. And as you keep going more local, your calculation of government changes somewhat. So what I'm telling you is, while I don't want to see a single regulation coming out of the EPA from Washington, D.C., I do want a leader in my locality that has a vision that can implement a plan for my city. I believe in property rights, I believe in freedom, and I believe in low taxes. But I also believe that once you get to the community level, that's what a community is. A community is a bunch of people with similar interests who want to build something together. I hope that we all, while I might have different opinions, are invested at the same level for the future of Sherman. And when that is the case, it really comes down to, and I say this to you both as a challenge and as an endorsement, it really comes down to leadership and judgment and vision. And so when you talk about red tape or zoning preferences or even local taxes, if it is in service of the community's vision of itself and its future, it is the right choice for the community. And so I've hammered that several times here today. And I love this town, and I want to see this town succeed. And my main thing for this town and this area is I want us to move forward with a vision of who we are in Sherman.
No, that's great. And I couldn't I thought I heard some clapping out there. I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Clay.
So you'll have to make hard choices, and that will rely on your judgment and other people's judgment in this city. And you will be afforded more power and should be afforded more power than we would reluctantly grant to people much further removed, farther away from us in Washington, D.C. or in Austin.
Yeah, and I agree completely with that principle. And, the way I look at it is on the national level, you have people that you didn't vote for in communities that you don't live in making broad decisions, and sometimes on the state level too, making broad decisions based on where they are, right? And here in our local community, if the elected officials are doing something at the county or the city that you don't like, you have the opportunity to go in and cast a vote for those people, or to at least show up to coffee with the mayor and express your opinions. And so I couldn't agree with you more that it puts the power in the hands of the people to be able to influence their lives at the greatest magnitude by keeping most of those primary decisions made locally. So
yes.
That's good to hear that we agree on that.
Yes. Yes.
So, all right, last question, and then we're going to do something fun. So I asked you favorite restaurant. Okay, maybe you can't give me one, but when you come to Sherman, right? You still have family here.
Yes.
You visit frequently.
Yes.
Okay, and I've heard about different opportunities where people have gotten to see you out in the community. So what would be maybe a couple of places that, for our audience...
you want to run into me?
That's right. Yeah.
That's you're backing your way into what's my favorite restaurants. I mean, I know what you're doing. Listen, I love all of your restaurants.
That's right.
I mean that. I really liked what you had downstairs, and some of the gentlemen who were downstairs talking about the future of Sherman and your development and your investment in Sherman. I truly appreciate. I really want to see your investment in Sherman. That's what I want to see. I go to lunch at MG's.
There we go. Hey.
I go to dinner at City Limits.
Yep.
And that's where you'll find me when I'm in Sherman.
No, I appreciate that. And I'm just curious now, since we're on the restaurant topic, right? Your dad's law office has now been converted into a restaurant.
Yes.
Have you had the opportunity to
I have, yeah.
Try that out?
Yeah. I was just thinking when I think that we've sold that building, which might have been a huge mistake. But we did, you'll see there still is my dad's name at the top of that building. And as the deed requires, you always will see that name at the top of that building. I'm very proud. One of the questions you had on there, you may or may not ask me this, but, and I hate to keep jumping your questions. If I weren't doing this for a living, what would I be doing? Well, I would be in that building practicing law in Sherman, Texas. That's what I would be doing if I weren't in media. And so I'm very proud of my father, very, very proud of my father. I'm very proud of my mom. I'm very proud of my mom's husband sitting right out there, Luke Motley. Mm-hmm. And I'd be right here doing that. And, but yes, now it's an Italian food restaurant, and I think that's great. And I want to see, I was happy to see from the city manager and what you said downstairs. So interesting to be downstairs because that's where I've had high school graduation parties and wedding receptions and everything else downstairs, cotillion, learning how to dance, and now we're talking about the future of Sherman together right here. So I'm happy to see about the development of downtown Sherman.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's a priority. And of course, I say this all the time. Your community needs a place to call home and to really feel like they still have that culture, even when you see things popping up all over the highways and industries and brand new retail establishments, which we love, right? The new sit-down restaurants and all that. But in order to really feel like you are tied to the community, you need a place where you can come and gather and that still feels like home. And I think that really does set a stage for keeping the identity that we've talked about a lot today, is you have to give people that place. Originally in Sherman, there was a pecan tree down there back in 1848 where they founded the original town center, and that was the place for Sherman to come and gather. And so we hope in the future that will continue to be the place that is
incredible. Truly
our central business district, right?
Yes.
And there may be other questions on here that you were hoping I got to, and if there are, we can touch on those. But I wanted to give you an opportunity. I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but I want to give you an opportunity. You are a question asker, okay?
Yeah.
And there may be people here that want to know things about Sherman. You may want to know things about Sherman. And so I'm going to put myself in the hot seat. I'm probably going to regret this, but I'll give you an opportunity to quiz me if you'd like to ask any questions that you want to know about Sherman.
Wow. It's funny, on the way down here, this Ellie works with me. She's right here. I've known Ellie her entire life, and she was asking me, Will, do you read your research packets before your interviews and before your shows? I said, sometimes. But I trust myself to be prepared, and I like to be present in an interview. The point of this is I am not prepared for this interview whatsoever, but we'll wing it together, okay? And raise your hand if you want me to ask the mayor a question. Okay, here we go. You ready? You are on the verge of explosive growth. There's a lot of exciting things coming to Sherman. How do you manage that growth in an organized way where you don't end up with chaotic zoning, home developments of varied price points scattered all around the town? And how do we not look like Houston? How do we have a city that has a real cohesive vision and look that people want to live to and move to in 10 years?
Interview over. So, great question. I think that is something that all of the small community, the once small communities that are growing are experiencing. Here in Sherman, what we're looking at is, we understand that people need affordable housing, but there also is a need for housing for some of the industrial type users, and it really needs to be a good blend because you can't have too much of one thing. And so I can give you an example of this. We had a deficit in multifamily properties in our town. We had more owner-occupied properties than we had rentals, multifamily or rental properties. And so what we saw was the market corrected itself. And you had a lot of multifamily properties come through in the last several years that got zoning for multifamily. And so now we've recognized that as a city, and we said, okay, what do we need to do to make sure we're getting the right types of multifamily if we continue to get multifamily? How do we make this look like the vision that we see for Sherman into the future? And so I think part of it is you have to be thinking about it before it happens, but also recognizing it very swiftly when it's happening and make sure that the outcome is what you're going to get based on what's happening as you go. So you have to set, like as you mentioned earlier, we have to set a vision of what we want to look like in 10, 15, 20 years. And then every decision we make has to be surrounding that vision.
When you look south to multiple experiments coming north out of Dallas, who would you point to as a success story, and who would you point to as something you would like to avoid?
Oh, that's a good question. I love all cities in Texas.
Yeah. You don't have to show up in Little Elm.
Yeah. Let me. That's a great question. So, I can tell you when we are looking at zoning ordinances, there are many cities that we go to down south. We take examples from cities that have outcomes that we're looking for, and the list is very long at the ones that have outcomes we're looking for. And then there are other cities that we see that maybe don't have the outcomes we're looking for. I'm not going to mention those cities by name.
Well, which ones do have the outcomes we're looking for?
Okay, fair. So when you're talking about, like as an example of this, creating the culture for your downtown and looking at, hey, what do you want to see in a thriving downtown environment? Look at Granbury as an example. Small town, incredible downtown. They've done things right there. They've encouraged these vendors to set up, and really they've kept onto that community feel, okay? McKinney's done a pretty good job of their downtown. Their downtown started, decades ago, and they have a thriving downtown that's really set the stage. When you look at housing, it's interesting because a lot of the housing needs are going to be based on the community that lives there, right? And so we have to figure out how do we make sure that we are able to provide housing for the types of industry and jobs and all of the population that we actually have living here. What does that look like into the future? So I think part of that is establishing certain requirements and volunteer programs even that we see a lot of builders participating in now. They volunteer in to agree to build homes at a higher standard at an affordable price in a dense neighborhood or in a less dense neighborhood. So it truly is a balance. But I know if you look at, as an example of this, there are cities that are directly next to DFW or cities that are very much closer to that highly densely populated areas with a multitude of different type of job offerings. Well, their zoning is going to look entirely different than ours. You mentioned Deputy Mayor Dobbs earlier. He grew up in Southlake. My mother-in-law lived in Southlake. Southlake has a 5,000 square foot minimum home requirement, and that may not be exactly right, but it's something like that, right? That's a requirement that we could never have here, right? And so we have to have good staggered growth with the right type of product on the ground to satisfy the community that we have, but also at a quality. So we don't want people to have to buy a home they can't afford that is going to be less quality than what they should expect. And so we've been working on our zoning ordinances to make sure that not only do we have affordable housing, but also we have quality housing.
So I was just looking at my clock, and if everyone's enjoying this, I've got another question or two. One of your questions was, what do people not know, or what would they expect about doing live television? You didn't ask me that, right?
That's right.
I'll share a story as I'm asking you questions. Here's one thing that people are always confused about what I control and what I don't control in television. They think sometimes that somehow I don't have control over what I say, that I'm told what to say. That's not true. I get to say whatever I want to say. Ultimately, I have a microphone on. There's nothing they can do to stop me. For one day. But what I don't control is time. I'm happy to see that on your schedule, I have a little more time with you. Mm-hmm. I don't control time, I don't control commercial breaks, and I don't control the President of the United States. When he chooses to speak, it's outside of my control. But we have a little more time. So I have two questions that have popped into my head. One, this is just something I've been personally curious about. When I come home, I drive 75. I take 75, I get off on Washington, I drive through Sherman, older residential Sherman. My family lives on the west side in what was the country, still is on the edge of being in the country. When I drive down Washington, I think all my friends grew up in these homes. My friends grew up on Crescent. My friends grew up in Western Hills. And I look at these neighborhoods and I think, now everybody buys homes out on the outskirts. They buy brand new homes. And I wonder, what is the future of that? I'm hesitant to even call it densely populated, but traditional, historical, residential Sherman. What is the future of that part of Sherman?
No, that's a good question. And, I think we've got several areas in Sherman that could fit that mold. Crockett Street, Travis Street, from downtown out to Highway 75. You've got that little corridor in West Sherman. And there's some great places over in East Sherman, too, where there's some really beautiful historic homes that have been here since the early 1900s or maybe before that. And, I think that one thing that we've been working on is an initiative to encourage redevelopment in those areas. We call it an infill program, but how do we encourage people to not only redo those homes, remodel those homes, but you have a lot of that going on. In that area, Burge, Washington, Belden, a lot of those homes have been, rebuilt. I think you used to live maybe
on Burge,
right? And so in a beautiful home there. And so there are a lot of those homes that have been remodeled, but what we're encouraging people to do with our new proposed infill program that we hope will be out soon is in those areas like that, when there is open land and they can potentially build a home there, that they would build it to look like the neighboring homes. And so we would have this touch of history with a brand new home, which is what a lot of new families are wanting. Yeah. And the good news about those homes is a lot of times they might need a remodel because they've been the same for the last 100 years. And so they are a little bit more affordable to get into for the square footage. And so we've seen much more of that redevelopment happening as we're growing. People are moving here from cities, maybe trendy cities that have downtown areas and historic areas. And so encouraging that through our infill program, but also just honoring that history and legacy and really hoping to develop out those areas to give people a reason to want to redo those homes.
Yes.
It's hard to get people excited about redoing homes around your downtown if there's nothing to do in downtown, right? So you've got to create this space that makes it ripe for those homes to be brought back to life. Right. And so that's something we're working on. A lot of those historic homes you talk about are surrounding our central business district, pretty close by anyways. People can walk to your downtown. But in the areas that it's not, really got to have a diverse infill program that enables them, when they build new construction, to build them to look like the old homes, but also to take care of those old homes. And as you know, when stuff starts getting built around something, those properties tend to elevate themselves up. And because the values go up, there's a reason for people to either remodel or sell.
Yeah. All right, I have one last question. I don't know who over here, you pointed to him earlier, is from Denison. but we love our friends from Denison. But that being said, no, Denison has done a really good job. And you hear Denison brought up a lot about what Denison has done. And so I ask you, what lessons have you learned from watching what happened in Denison that you'd love to apply in Sherman?
Yeah, that's a great point. So, and when we talked earlier about, whose cities do you look at and admire for certain things, Denison has done a fantastic job with their downtown. I mean, they have really developed that out into being a hub for entertainment and a cultural hub where people go and spend their weekends and time and money. And so I think that what Denison did, they started their downtown program decades before us. They've been a Main Street city for many, many years. And they took their downtown and started treating it like a city asset. And they treated it like a park. And how do we not expect to see a direct return, but give the people something they can be proud of? And so I think that's a lesson that you'll see from most downtowns that have been successful, is they don't treat them as a line item, budget item. They treat them as a city park or a city asset, and they know they have to take care of it, nurture it, and make it special for people to appreciate it.
Excellent answer.
Yeah.
I conclude my interview, and I give it back to you.
Okay. So, Will, I appreciate you being here. I love the questions. I don't know if I answered any of them except for the last one.
No, I think you did a great job of answering all of them.
But I appreciate you being here and your willingness to come, sit in the hot seat, and also help kind of give us your lens of Sherman, knowing that you grew up here, you've been here, you were here your entire youth, and then left and have seen a lot of the world and report on a lot of things happening around the world. So it's very meaningful to us that you're here. And I told you that this community, I told you this on the phone, I've told you probably 5 times, but we are just so proud of you and everything you've accomplished. And I'll tell you why I chose you to come speak, okay? Not only do you have the Sherman roots and you're just an incredibly talented speaker, you have a unique way of looking at Sherman and really helping us cast that vision and talk about what the issues are that are facing us. But when I went to ChatGPT and I said, who's the most famous person from Sherman? It said Will Kane.
No, come on, that can't be.
So
don't trust AI.
But I would tell you, I got the shepherd hook just a minute ago. So, but what I am going to tell you is I have a special presentation for you that I know I didn't tell you I was going to do anything, but
wow.
We have put together a key to the city. We haven't done this since I've been on council, I'm aware of, ever. And so we put together this key to the city for you, and we are just so honored to call you a Shermanite, and we're just so thankful that you're here with us today.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
I still think he's going to make me cry up here. I couldn't be more proud. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, appreciate y'all. If you don't mind, let's give him a big round of applause as we exit the stage.